Okay, before we get off the Chris thing, Charlie Chris is kind of thumbing his nose or telling State Farm to go ahead and take a hike. I know a lot of the insurance companies are looking for windstorm coverage to be either nationalized or state funded. What do you think about the situation with the insurance companies in Florida?
Well, as a lay person who writes my insurance check every month, insurance companies love to get your checks. They just don't like to write your checks out. And that's the bottom line here. Insurance companies, you do need to reel them in and put them, give them a new marching order and tell them to march to the beat of the people here. I mean, these are economic hard times. Let's stop the game playing and let's hold them accountable for what they need to do. You either want to be an insurance company or you don't. And I think we need to stop the game playing.
You don't want them to be able to cherry pick, come in and say, I'll just do auto coverage.
Yeah, let's do the things that bring us the most amount of money and we don't have to pay too much out.
Right.
You either want to be an insurance company or you don't.
Right. All right, now, Northport City Commissioner Mike Trubert got in a little bit of trouble, also a former longtime law enforcement officer, got in a little trouble, lost his teaching job, teaching at SCTI. I guess he showed some obscene photos from a NASCAR event to his police academy class. He says by accident he hit the wrong button or something. What do you think about this?
Well, in the old school police department, you got to be thick-skinned. If you're in the walls of a police academy and something in that police academy is offending you, you do have to be a little thick-skinned, because you're going to see a lot worse on the street than you're ever hearing from. But on the other thing, times have changed. I mean, I started in law enforcement back in the 70s. Times were much different then, so you do have to be, aware of what's out there and what offends people. It's an unfortunate situation. I've met Mike several times on the campaign trail, and he seemed like a pretty stand-up person. But it's a different world, and he needs to know that if you're at the police academy in this day and age.
Well, that's for sure. I taught there for 10 years. It is a little bit of a fishbowl. Not as bad as teaching at a college. You teach at
right.
It's a little bit less, politically correct there because it is more paramilitary, like you said. But we got a lot of emails and stuff wanting to make Mike Trubert our Weasel of the Week. We decided not to for a couple reasons. Number one, he was a cop for 25 years with a clean record. And number two, he's got somewhat of a plausible explanation for why it happened, so we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Moving on, the Herald Tribune cuts another 48 employees. They laid off a third of their work staff last year, another 48 this year. I talked to the guy covering the courts. They got one guy covering Manatee and Sarasota courts now, and the police beats for both counties. They're running a skeleton operation over there on the cover of Time magazine, talking about the newspaper business across the country is struggling. What do you think about the newspaper business and Herald Tribune in particular?
Well, I have my doubts about Herald Tribune, quite honestly. Especially I think you covered it very well in the whole nomination, who was going to get the nod from the Herald Tribune, and I was very suspect in that whole process to begin with. But that being said, the times have changed. I don't subscribe to a newspaper. I go online. I get all my news online, and I think
you're part of the problem, Curt.
I am. I absolutely am. And you know what? That I think. I think I'm now in the majority of us that go online. We read our newspaper online, and we get all the information we need to at our convenience, not at the convenience of the local
You're
newspaper.
a South County guy. See, I also really strongly felt that the Herald Tribune was out of touch with the county as a whole, and it was mostly a northwest Sarasota County perspective, and they were out of touch with half the people in Sarasota County, which are people in South County. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know. I've seen some coverage lately, where they seem to try to move south and cover some of the events. They have a reporter, at least that covered our aspect of the substance abuse issues down in Northport and what was going on down there. They did a pretty good job on that. And some of the reporters I do work with, they do a really good job. They do try to cover a story pretty fair and balanced. But I think it is just a lay of the land. It's a lot of folks don't want that paper delivered on their doorstep every morning.
And they raised it to 75 cents, too.
Yeah, I know.
Raise prices when you're struggling.
I know, but I still buy the Sunday paper.
Do you? Curt, thanks for coming on the show. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Now let's see, our Weasel of the Week. Our Weasel of the Week this week, institutions that we grew up with seem to fall by the wayside or get tarnished year after year after year. And the things that, you know, we grew up playing football on the playground or swing sets, these are things you don't see anymore. Public parks, kids playing. Generally, there are no unorganized sports anymore, and that's one of the things that has fallen by the wayside because of different liabilities. But one thing that has hung on, that's the ice cream man. You still see the ice cream trucks going through the neighborhood with the music and the buzzer, but our Weasel of the Week, Galen Yoder, is trying to destroy that last vestige of our childhood. Galen Yoder is an ice cream man who lured a 12-year-old girl into his ice cream truck and molested her, unfortunately. So unfortunately, hopefully that will not become a trend, and the ice cream man won't go the way of the local playground swing sets. So Galen Yoder, our Weasel of the Week, for ruining the pristine image of the ice cream man. That's Clout 941. Next week we got State Representative candidate Greg Stubbe, Manatee Sheriff Brad Stubbe's son. See you next week.